Welcome back to the SENWA studio out here at Optus Stadium. It's going to be a sunny but cooler day in Perth today, building to a maximum of 25 degrees later in the day. Well, the Dockers scored a critical 34-point win over GWS at NG Stadium on Saturday afternoon. It keeps them in touch with the top eight. Craig O'Donoghue covered it for the West Australian. He joins us on the show. Craig, welcome.
Thanks, Duff.
What did you make of it, mate? What did the Dockers do to get the win?
They were just as hard as nails. That was the thing that stood out. Like the centre clearances, especially 15-8 in the centre clearances, and it was a massacre in the second half when it came to contested possessions. They just kept winning that footy, and at the ground itself, I'm not sure if it showed up really well on the telly, but the surface was quite spongy. They'd relayed the entire ground after the Easter show up there. It was the Giants' first game there since then. And the longer the game went, the more it got cut up a bit, and the ball was on the ground a lot more and wasn't bouncing as well. So you had to be really hard over the footy, and they just were. They just kept winning contest after contest after contest. And then the Giants just couldn't find a way to score, and Freo hit kicks in a row, and the game was over.
The Giants looked very flat. Is there a chance they just didn't get up after the big win over Geelong the previous week? It was one of those games where at the 5-minute mark of the first quarter, I thought, gee, Fremantle are really on here, and the Giants just look off.
Yeah, well, what you do have to remember is that game that the Giants played, their last game at NG, was round 4 against West Coast. So then they'd gather around where they're away, and then they had another game in Adelaide the week after that, and then they're in Canberra the week after that, and then they're at the SCG for an away game where you're up and about, obviously, because it's a derby for them, and then they're in Geelong last week. So they're constantly playing in a different ground every single week. They're on planes a lot. They never really get settled. So this is always a danger period for them where they lose access to their home ground. And Adam Kingsley said after the game that even their VFL team was poor. Like, they just looked flat as well. So he wonders whether or not it is that you take a deep breath and like, oh, we're finally back at home, or whether they've trained them too hard or haven't helped them with recovery enough to get themselves into a position to be able to play well. But I thought Freo just set the standard for them. Like, the Giants kicked a goal in the first minute of the game, but after that, Fremantle were on top for pretty much the entire match, and the Giants kicked some late ones, but that only made the scoreboard look respectable because Fremantle were in control for pretty much the entire contest. If they had to kick accurately, would have won by heaps.
Yeah, it felt like a 8 to 10 goal win, really, didn't it? And I think they got out to 49 points at one stage. And as you mentioned, I think Justin Longmuir said in his press conference after the game, they got a bit sloppy late. Hey, Luke Jackson as the number one ruckman, what's the decision that Justin Longmuir has to make now? If Sean Darcy, who we heard nearly got up for this game, if he gets up for the Port Adelaide game, does Fremantle go with the two-ruck structure? And if they do go with the two-ruck structure, is Sean Darcy the number one ruckman again, or do they stick with Luke Jackson after what was a dominant display on Saturday?
Well, Luke Jackson was the number one ruckman against Collingwood. He started in the ruck and Sean Darcy started on the bench, and then his performance on the weekend showed that he is a better player as a ruckman than he is as a forward rucky. If I'm Fremantle right now, I'm not playing Sean Darcy until after the bye, and I'm not playing him at any level of footy until after the bye. I reckon they're better off saying, sit out this game against Port Adelaide, do not travel to Gold Coast because it's a bloody long way for a big bloke, and then you've got to bye. I think he needs to spend the next 3 weeks just doing a mini pre-season, because his pre-season was so impacted by his injuries, and then he had the infection, which meant he had to have another operation, and he never really got a genuine pre-season under his belt. So I'd get him fit, really fit for the next 3 weeks. Don't play waffle, don't play AFL, just train and get your body hardened again for a crack after the bye when they have 3 successive games in Perth, so they don't have to worry about getting on a plane. So I think that's their best option for him. And then they get to see Luke Jackson as just a ruckman for 3 weeks and see what he can be and what that can do for the team, and they can be settled in that way. And then they can make a decision after that when Darcy and Jackson eventually do play together. Has it worked properly, or is Jackson the number one ruckman and that they can only go in there with one? Because they need to make a decision on it, but they need to see some consistency from both sides of things. what does it look like if Jackson's just the man, and what does it look like if the two of them are there? Because until they get to see the evidence from both of those sides, they never really know, and they're guessing. So I'd rest Darcy for a while, make him train, and have a good look at Jackson by himself.
So, not playing the waffle? Why wouldn't you play Sean Darcy in the waffle and let him build confidence and momentum at that level?
I think there's always a chance you're going to pot sore from the waffle regardless, so you're not going to have as much time to train during the week. I think he needs to get genuine load into his body from a running perspective and get himself really, really fit again, because it's fine to be fit from a footy game perspective, but then you don't train much during the week. And I haven't trained much in recent weeks because they've had 5-day breaks and 6-day breaks, and then he got hurt. So I think that when you look back at that and say, well, when he hasn't had much training, that's when he got hurt. I reckon he needs to get some real strength into his body again and really do a lot of running, a lot of strength work, all the work that he was doing in the pre-season before he got hurt, so that he can feel confident about his ability to really compete and really have a crack, and then be fitter than the other ruckman, because that other ruckman has been banged up by the season itself. And then you get to see a fresher Sean Darcy and a fitter Sean Darcy in the second half of the year, because he's chasing his tail a bit at the moment because of the lack of pre-season.
If we assume that a big part of the reason why Luke Jackson is not entirely committed to being at Fremantle next year is he wants to see if he's going to be the number one ruckman, and I believe that is the case. I believe that Luke Jackson would happily stay at Fremantle if he's the number one ruckman. Then do you have to commit one way or the other between now and the end of the season, or are you a believer that they can somehow squeeze two genuine ruckmen into the one team?
I think they can fit two genuine ruckmen into the one team at times, but they can't go in there with 8 talls like they've tried with the 3 tall defenders, the 3 tall forwards, and 2 genuine ruckmen. That's not going to work, I don't think. So it still needs to be that one of Jackson or Darcy has to play as a forward when they're not rucking, and that means one of Amos, Tracy, or Voss has to come out. So they've got a lot of challenges about how they select this group, and in the end, this is going to be the decision that Justin Lomio will be hanging his hat on at the end of the year around whether Fremantle is successful or not. Have they made it with having 2 ruckmen, or have they made it because he's had the courage to only go with one of them? We're going to find out what he genuinely believes in, because this is this is for all the marbles, really. The team structure, what helps you to win, how many talls you go with, how many rucks you go with. It's his name on the line for this one. It's his job on the line for this sort of thing. And it's fine to have 2 blokes on long-term deals, but if he doesn't have confidence that can win you games of footy, then he's going to have to make the call on what he believes will be successful. So this is one of the big coaching decisions that Justin Lomio has faced, and he needs to make the right call for this team to be successful. So it's going to be fascinating to see how confident he is in the two of them, or how confident he is in his own ability to make the big call at the right moment.
Well, one call he has made that's worked really well over the last couple of weeks is Shea Bolton spending more time in the midfield. He was back there again on the weekend. I thought you could probably toss a coin between him and Jackson for best on-ground honours. That was probably the best game he has played for Freo so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And he looks more confident in his fitness as well. He was handballing a lot in recent weeks where he's got the ball in a bit of congestion and not burst clear, but we saw him burst clear against the Giants and get himself into enough space to get that extra 5 metres, and suddenly you're driving the ball forward and have 24 touches, kicked 3 goals, had the 3 clearances as well. 16 of his touches were kicks, so he was getting those metres gained and just looked really dynamic and really exciting. And that's the Shea Bolton that we saw at Richmond when he was at his absolute best. And that's the Shea Bolton that Fremantle wanted to be in their midfield, and he's so exciting. And what he could do for the rest of the year if he's playing as that midfielder who can go forward and kick goals also, that will really change the way this team plays.
A big change, obviously, going into the game. Justin Lomio showed some faith in Neil Erasmus, plonked him in the midfield. There was a couple of dodgy sort of decisions and executions he made early, but seemed to warm to his task very well, and was a big contested ball winner and a big clearance winner as the game went on.
Yeah, and it's amazing what happens when someone gets given an opportunity where they feel like they're going to stay in the team. And I think the reality for Neil Erasmus now is he would look around and go, well, there's no one else coming up. I feel like I'm the last choice. But that's okay because there's no one left to push me out of the team. Hayden Young isn't coming back in at the moment, and Nat Fife isn't coming back in at the moment, and Nathan O'Driscoll's been hurt as well, so he'd probably be thinking he's got until the bye before anyone else is really going to challenge him, which means he's playing with a little bit more freedom in his own mind. And it's amazing what happens when you have freedom of the mind. You can just focus on your job and not worry about making errors because the consequences aren't as big if you do. So now he's gone out there and shown what he can do. He's got to back it up against Port Adelaide this week, and then hopefully the Gold Coast as well. And then similar to what I said about decisions around the bye after that, that will be when the other guys will start coming back and decisions will have to be made around where he sits in this group. So he doesn't get a lot of opportunity because there's too many blokes in front of him. So right now, this is his chance to make hay while the sun is shining and show what he can do and not feel the pressure every single week worrying he's going to get dropped.
Did we see some evidence that Jai Amos has built some confidence on the weekend? He kicked a couple of goals. He took a couple of good grabs pushing up the ground. Was that a little sign that he's starting to turn the corner after what's been a pretty tough opening to the season for him?
Yeah, the contested part's really important for him. Like, I don't think he's overly fit at the moment with his body. He's had the pink hat on at training for months. So clearly he's sore every single week and he's playing with some sort of injury because the pink hat means no one's allowed to touch him pretty much at training. They do not hurt this guy because he's not healthy. So the fact that he's playing through some sort of problem at the moment is another sign of why he hasn't been the Jai Amos we expect. But when he contributes with his running and gets up the ground and then works his way back to have some shots at goal, that's when you see what Amos is becoming for Fremantle. So he's never going to be a really high possession winner, only 8 on the weekend, but when he gets the ball inside 50, you have always been able to rely on him to be able to make the most of those chances. He kicked 2 straight on against the Giants. So if he can start to get healthy again and start to feel good and confident in his body again, I think we'll see the real Jai Amos come out in the second half of the season.
Brennan Cox played on Jesse Hogan in the corresponding match last year and coughed up 6 goals. His game on Jesse this year was a big difference in the outcome of those 2 games.
Yeah, it was massive. And the reality was last year he was coming back from injury in that second half of the season and wasn't confident in himself, wasn't confident in his body, and Jesse Hogan was well and truly flying. But he came into this game, he got told that he had the job on Hogan very early in the week. He spent the week doing a lot of research on Hogan and both on his memory of playing on him at training and looking at the different version of him from the Giants, had a look at a hell of a lot of vision, really assessed where he gets his ball, how he gets his ball, and knew that he kicked 7 the previous week against Geelong, and he said to me in the rooms afterwards, I just did not want to be embarrassed like I was last year, and that was a really big motivation. So stuck with him the entire game, just didn't let Hogan win contests, and that was the big thing. Hogan's such a competitive beast and wins the ball in so many different ways. You can lead up the ground and take the mark, you can take a contested grab, you can win the ball at ground level, and Cox was with him everywhere he went and just kept on fighting. And it was so impressive to see because when Hogan plays well, the Giants are a force, and when you take him out of the game, then they become much less of a team. So Cox is outstanding.
Is this the defensive makeup you think the Dockers have to stay with? They were very tall back there early in the season. They were trying. It was almost like they knew they had good players back there, and they're just trying to squeeze them all in. Obviously, Josh Draper's a good young player. They like Brandon Walker because he shuts down the opposition gun small forwards. But Cooper Simpson has been a significant addition there, and you feel like Carl Warner's just starting to find his feet back there. And also Heath Chapman, after a really shaky game against Collingwood, was more the Heath Chapman we know.
Yeah, I really like this back 6 a lot better. As I said earlier, when they have tried 4 tall defenders, they've tried the 2 rucks, they've tried the 3 tall forwards. They've been a very big team. This looks a lot more balanced. And the team in the past has looked like when the Australian cricket team said, we're just going to select our best 6 batsmen and just figure out the order afterwards. It did feel like the Dockers said, let's just pick our best players and try to fit them into different spots. Well, I don't think that worked, and I love what Warner has given them. Like, he's been moved into a lot of different positions this year, but it does feel like he's finding a role now, and I think he can play a little bit taller than what he is. He can play on the smalls, and he gives them a bit of run out of the back line, and he can also take good mark. So he's really versatile for them. Cooper Simpson has the speed that they genuinely need coming out of there. It just takes a little bit of pressure off Jordan Clark, because if Clark's the only one bringing it out of the back line with speed, then they've got a real problem because other teams will sit on him. So Simpson was really good, I thought, in the game against the Giants, after showing some good signs the previous week as well, and kicked the goal the other night, and they all got around him there. And yeah, they just look a lot more balanced at the moment. So I think the three talls is the way to go, and then you've got those other smaller blokes around them, and I think that'll make a big difference.
Michael Frederick, he's been hot and cold all year, and his cold has been pretty cold. But that's as lively and as electric as he's been at any point this season. Yeah,
I can't remember him playing as well as that for years. Like, he just had this presence about him out there. And the two shots that he missed, he would normally nail. So he could have kicked 5. So he just looked like the guy who was prepared to take the game on. He was physical. He had an electricity about him, with both with ball in hand and when he was just getting to positions. So that's the player that we need to see. And you and I have talked a couple of times this year about how disappointing he has been, and whether or not he needed to be the one to go back. And I think it's really interesting when you get under that sort of pressure for yourself and you're worrying about your spot. As I said with Neil Erasmus, sometimes it can make players go inside themselves. I think this made him go, no, you know what, I haven't been playing well enough. I need to be the Michael Frederick of old. I need to be the Freddie rather than the Michael. Like it's a different sort of player. The Michael was the very, very normal, very bland sort of player. The Freddie's the electricity of him, and we saw Freddie over the weekend. I think that's exactly what Dockers fans would want to see. They want to see Freddie lighting up and being exciting for them.
One more before I let you go, Cod. Based off the back of that, well, two things. A lot of talk about the Dockers ball movement, but I thought their pressure and their ability to turn the ball over from places where they could hurt the Giants was probably almost more significant than the ball movement. But also, if that's the Fremantle we get more often, what are they capable of?
Well, it's hard to know what they're capable of at the moment, I think, because they're just so young. Like, they are the least experienced team that's going out there every single week. So we're going to continue to see inconsistency with them there. So we get excited when they do it against Adelaide. We get excited when they do it against the Giants, but then they let themselves down in other games as well. And they've got some big games coming up. Like, can they back it up against Port this week? So everyone just expects Fremantle will win this game. Port were horrible on the weekend, and it's a home game for Fremantle. So we expect them to play well, but they haven't played well when the expectations are there. They've then got to go to the Gold Coast. Will they handle the Gold Coast up there? So it's hard to know which version of Fremantle you're going to get at the moment. So until we get to see some consistency, it's fine to say when they play well, they look really good, but they can't be that team that's up and down and up and down. They need to be consistent week in, week out. So until we see the consistency, I don't think it matters what we see when they play well. We just need to see them play a consistent brand of footy all the time, and then we won't see the shocking ones anymore. So that's the key for them now. Not what they look like when they're good, it's what they look like when they're not at their absolute best, and can they stay in games and win then.
Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Craig. Thanks for joining us this morning, and look forward to speaking to you again very soon, hopefully off the back of another set of strong performances from West Australian teams.
No worries, Duff. Have a good day.
Craig O'Donoghue, of course, senior sports writer at the West Australian. Give us your thoughts. 0487 736 736 is the Harvey Norman Busselton text line, and 13 12 55 is the Bowra and Dode open line if you want to give us a call. Back with more.